Well, Chris Popper here in Bangor. I'm joined by Coach Mark Shields from the MDI football team. And Coach, it's hard to believe, but we've made it through a week and a half of double sessions. You've done your um, controlled scrimmage against Stearns on Monday, and first day of school tomorrow for you. I'm sorry. I know, right? But first day of real school for you tomorrow. And so talk to us a little bit about how practices have gone. Must have been nice for the boys to hit somebody else besides their teammates.
Yeah, for sure, Chris. As you know, I've said for many, many years, I feel like the first 2 weeks of the season, I'm not really coaching, and I'm doing a lot of the other things to prepare for the two-a-days and barbecues and overnights. And so, yeah, we wrapped up our two-a-days this morning. This was our last morning. The boys were pretty excited about that. They don't have to get on the practice field at 6 a.m. anymore, starting tomorrow morning. And we'll continue our afternoon practices from 4:30 to 7. And yes, I do start school tomorrow, so that will add another dynamic to my life. But so far I've been really happy with the effort of the kids. Been working hard, doing everything we ask of them, great attitudes. Um, we had our overnight at Camp Beech Cliff
Which
last Friday night.
which was a different place. Normally it's been held down in Scudic. How was it at Camp Beech Cliff?
Yeah, it was great. We were fearful. The weather forecast did not look wonderful for that day, but it fortunately held so we could get on the practice field. So we got over there at 4:30. We stepped on the practice field, their ball field, around 5, and we practiced for an hour and a half. And then at 6:30, we had a barbecue. Fortunately, I had some wonderful parents help out with that. So while we were practicing, they were cooking food for us. And so we got off the practice field at 6:30, and there's a tent right next to the field that we utilized for the barbecue. So we went over there and watched the boys wolf down a bunch of food pretty quickly.
There's nothing like teenage boys in the way they can eat, right?
You know, I don't know why I'm surprised. I have one myself with Jacob, but to watch the hot dogs and hamburgers and chips and cookies and fruit just disappear within minutes, and that's what happened. Then we went back for seconds, so so that was good. And the weather held, so we could get all that in, and then we went into the gymnasium. That's where we were sleeping. We had mattresses to sleep on, and they had a screen in there so we could watch our team movie. And the guys played dodgeball for a while. That was kind of fun. And I think our heads hit the pillow maybe around 11 o'clock that night. And I think maybe by midnight, I heard a lot of snoring going on in the gymnasium, and I think they were pretty tired. And we got up around 7:30. We had breakfast, went back out to the practice field for 2.5 hours. Then we loaded the buses, and we were back at the high school around 11:45-ish. So it was a nice experience. The facility was awesome. They accommodated everything we needed. They let us use their showers and their gymnasium and their field and their tents and everything. So I really want to give a shout out to Camp Beech Cliff for allowing us to do that. And then so then Monday we had Sunday off. Then Monday we had Stearns come to town for a controlled scrimmage, and that went well. I thought, like we said before, Stearns is going to be a nice matchup for us because they are a blue collar, just hardworking group of kids, and they came down here and they played hard and they gave us everything they had, and I thought our guys gave them everything we had. I thought it was pretty evenly matched overall. We made tons of mistakes, but that's typical in your first scrimmage, and we're throwing kids in different positions and, seeing what's going to stick. And so we got through that, and now we're getting ready. Let's see. So Thursday night, today being Wednesday, Thursday night, we're having a barbecue with the AYS kids.
Yeah.
So we'll practice from 4 to 5:30. And then we'll have a barbecue with the AYS kids for about 45 minutes. And then we'll go back on the field with the AYS kids, the football kids from AYS, and then we'll do some fun things with them, a sort of field day with them. And then Friday's kind of pregame, and next thing you know, we're back on the field against Dexter on Saturday.
And that whole Friday pregame, that kind of gets you into the routine, because one of the things that we've talked about, yes, you have some veteran players, but it's that whole learning the Trojan way. It's like, this is what we do, this is how we get ready for the game. And it's probably good that you're traveling for your exhibition game to Dexter on Saturday at noon, because then it's like, eat a good healthy snack, make sure you're hydrating. This is how we go on the bus. And I mean, this is all preparation, because there aren't any quick bus trips this year. I mean, they're all couple-hour trips.
Right. I mean, Dexter's actually, believe it or not, one of the shorter trips for us,
Right.
especially where we're not playing Ellsworth this year. And you're absolutely right. We talk a lot about control, what you can control, and things you can control. Like you said, hydration, their diet, preparation, rest, all that sort of stuff, taking care of their bodies. And, travel is a big part of it. So my philosophy has always been, talk to them the night before about what we expect the next morning, get there early, get on the bus.
Make sure you've got your mouth guards, make sure that everything's packed, because you have some spares, but it's nobody wants to use somebody else's mouth guard. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
right.
I know. Especially after seeing these guys eat. So, yeah, no, and I won't name the player, but we ended up going.
It always happens.
Yeah, I mean, I remember a regular season game. We went to Ellsworth last year, and I had a kid that didn't have his helmet. So, it does happen. And so, so we talk about, make sure you check your gear. Like I tell them, I don't want to be dealing with fixing gear 10 minutes before we're getting on the bus. We can do that, tonight, the night before we get on the bus. And all that sort of stuff, what time I'd like them to go to bed and get up and all of that, their diets. And then when we do actually get on the bus, I talk to the kids about, it doesn't have to be completely silent, but they should be focused on the task at hand. It is a 2-hour drive. Sometimes the kids will, we have 3 and 4 hour drives, so they'll sleep for a while. And then, I'll get them up if we're about 45 minutes away from a school. I'll get them up and get them moving a little bit and talking about football. But I would like it quiet on the bus. And I tell them, if you're going to talk to, a teammate, it should be about what's going to happen that day, or maybe an assignment or something like that. But it should be focused on football. And then, you're right. We get there and we practice all of our pregame stuff ahead of time, but it's a nice way to reinforce what we're going to practice on that Friday practice, which we'll go through some of that stuff to prepare us for our home opener. But I'm a big believer in, do things right. Everything we do, try to do it correctly to prepare for games. And, I've seen teams come out and they look kind of disorganized with their pregame, and they just don't, I just feel like to really mentally prepare for a game, you do have to do those things correctly, and and hope that it pays off, when that ball's kicked off to start the game.
Well, and we've seen people come off, and unfortunately MDI has done it too, but with bus legs. And I mean, that's why you get there early.
Yep, absolutely. So we usually get to places, an hour and a half before kickoff, and that gives our guys time to get off the bus, get their legs kind of stretched. We like to walk down to fields. So hopefully we get to Dexter in time where we can walk down to their field, and the guys will bring the footballs down, and they can kind of throw those around and walk and run a little bit and just kind of wake up. And then we'll get back to the locker room. The guys will get changed. After that, they'll come out. It's all scripted. I have it. It's an extreme type A personality, Coach Shields. So I have it completely scripted on what we're doing and when. So there's a certain point where they'll come out of the locker room, and then we will go through all of our special teams and our, offense and defense, just to make sure guys know what teams they're on and that sort of thing. And then we go to the field in waves. The first wave is typically your special teams kids, and they'll go down, they'll warm up, and then they'll start doing their thing down there, punting, long snapping, kicking, all that sort of stuff. And then the second wave would be more of your lineman type people that aren't maybe on special teams. And then we'll warm up as a team, and then we'll get into our offense. We'll do our breakdowns. We'll have an offensive breakdown, a defensive breakdown, and then we'll do our teams, our offense and defense. And then by then it's time for introductions and all that sort of thing. And we're ready to go.
I don't know if fans can hear it, but the motivational chatter on the field. I mean, I was on the sidelines for the Stearns minimum. I mean, it's hysterical. I mean, you're trying to keep everybody loose, and inspiring them, but I mean, it's hysterical. One day we've got to mic it up and then bleep everything out. But I mean, but it really is hysterical. And one of the things that I think that you are a master of is motivating the kids. I mean, from day one when you're talking about, yeah, well, all those video games really helped you this summer. I mean, it keeps the kids loose. They are, they're probably muttering under their breath, but at the same time, it's inspiring. And I think it's hysterical.
Yeah, it would be interesting to mic up a few players in pregame and see what comes out of their mouths, and maybe even the coaches at times. But yes, and it's tricky because you have an hour before kickoff, so you don't want the kids all ramped up, an hour before kickoff. We want to be productive during the pregame. But we're not going to win a football game during the pregame. We don't want to use up all our energy during the pregame. So it's a tricky balance as far as, keeping them active and getting them loose, but not using up all of their energy. So a lot of pregame for us, we're trying to make it as mental as possible, but getting them moving, get the blood going a little bit, juices pumping, and get them ready to play. So ultimately, by the time they do introductions, the guys are pretty revved up at that point, and ready to go. But yeah, it's a fine line. And I've made mistakes with that before. Like I've done too much in pregame with some teams. And next thing you know, it's like kickoff. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're exhausted. So it's yeah, I mean, and it depends on the weather, the temperature sometimes. If it's really hot, like on Monday, we did a lot of mental type stuff. We didn't do much with them physically because we knew they were going to be
it was 80 degrees. I mean, the sun came out, it was 80 degrees, everybody was hot. That's a quick question. I know one of the things that you really placed an emphasis on in the first couple of weeks is conditioning. What were your thoughts on how the team was conditioned? I mean, they were tired, but it looked like they still had plenty of energy.
Yeah, I thought overall we looked okay. I mean, I know there was one point we was we call our black group. Our first group was out there, and they had, because it was those 10 plays, and then they move it back to the 30, and then they had a drive, and it was a long drive with a lot of plays.
Yeah.
So I think by the end of that drive, I remember saying to them, guys, I can't remember exactly how I worded it, but it was like, guys, we're gonna kind of have to get through this. We're gonna have to be tough and punch this ball in, and ultimately we did, which was nice. So I thought overall the guys were well conditioned, and what we found last year when we played Dexter was, I think we were kind of a tired football team by the time we played them, and that kind of makes sense because we've been doing 2 days for a week and a half, and then they only had Thursday, and then they played Friday. I'm hoping this year, where we play them on Saturday, where we wrapped up our 2 days on Wednesday, we now have Thursday and Friday for them to potentially rest up a little bit more. But, once again, Saturday for us is trying to get better. The score really does not matter to us. We're throwing kids in different positions, and we want to get better. And once again, it is a way to condition even more to get them prepared for their first opponent, the regular season game against Mountain Valley.
So you've got how many kids are on the roster right now? Are you still around that 25, 26 number?
So we picked up a new freshman today. His name's Warwick Black. So we are at 29 right now.
Oh, wow.
Which is nice. And potentially we could pick up a couple of more when school starts. We usually do. The good news is so far we haven't lost anybody. Sometimes you do. Once kids have never played before, they'll come out and be like, "Ooh, this is this is a lot of work,"
Right.
and they decided it's not for them. But we haven't lost anybody, so that's nice. So I'm hoping by the time we suit up against Mountain Valley, we'll be maybe around 30 kids.
Which is great because then that allows you to actually have a JV team and get everyone practicing and playing, and that then improves the future years for the Trojans.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Great point, Chris. When we were doing 11 man, by the end of it, we really couldn't field a JV team. When you're in low 30s, the numbers are low 30s. But with 8-man, yeah, now we're able to have a full varsity team and a full JV team, and yeah, I mean, to develop the kids and to build a program, you really do need to have that JV program. And who the heck wants to come to practice every day and not actually have a game to play in?
Right.
I mean, football's too hard for that. That's. I mean, it's supposed to be fun, and fun is playing in the game. So it's not jumping bags in practice. So yeah, so it's been great for us to move to 8-man, and if we're hovering around 30, then we're in pretty good shape.
All right. So, Coach, thanks very much. Good luck tomorrow at school. I saw. Don't make Matt Haney call your wife to come pick you up. I mean, you can do this. You can do this, and we're just looking forward to the first game a week from Friday, which is September 1st. And we'll of course have that game on WDEA internet radio, and we'll have all but one of the Trojans games this season on the radio or on the internet, and we're looking forward to it. And stay injury free, and we'll chat next week. I'm hoping to get down to Dexter to take some photos on Saturday, but otherwise we'll figure out a time to talk next week and then get ready for Mountain Valley. Hard to believe it's here.
Just like that. Just like that. Yep. All right, Chris, thank you very much, and we'll talk again next week.
All right. Have a great day.
You too.